You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 128, and my name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram and 5cardguys.com. With me, co-hosting as usual, is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards. John is off again today, but hopefully he'll be back next week. But today we actually have another special guest joining the pod for an interview, which we'll play just in a bit. You might have come across his Instagram reels as he's getting pretty active in producing funny, pretty hilarious hobby content. His name is Denny, and you can find him at Denny_cards at IG. You won't want to miss the interview we had with him, which is coming up shortly. But before we get into that, off the top, Hyung, just want to get your quick thoughts on the Panini Prizm Monopoly basketball card set that was released, I believe, in retail stores like Target in the US.
Target, yeah. It's interesting, huh?
Yeah, it's been getting a lot of buzz, right? For a number of reasons, including, a couple of reasons that stick to my mind right now. The Trae Young seemingly looking like he's playing against his own teammates.
Oh, man.
Or like the Color Blast cards that have colorless backgrounds.
Right. And they're going for fortune too.
Yeah, they are.
Which is crazy. So, yeah, no, I think, I'm not going to be a hater on this because I know people are enjoying it. I'm personally not a Monopoly fan. Like, I don't have a deck of Monopoly deal either. Like, you're not going to find... Only cards I'm packing is like sports cards, not Monopoly deal. So there's people who love Monopoly and they love the collab. So I'm not gonna hate on it that it's bad. It's all bad. It's not for me personally, but I don't mind seeing people enjoy the product for what it is. A lot of people actually enjoy, the game aspect of it, right? I personally don't think from an investment standpoint, the individual cards may hold the value. I could see, maybe sealed wax down the road could, you could potentially do well with it. But overall, I'm not sold as a hobbyist. But that's just me. I'm not saying that it doesn't warrant, it to be and have its place in the hobby, because a lot of people, based on the feedback, it's been great. That's what I've been hearing more. It's typical, you get the hobbyist saying, what is this garbage, hot garbage, and then it's just like, the other half is like, this is the best thing. This is what I look forward to. So it's a tough one for me though.
Okay. I think we're on the same page here. Like, when I first saw it, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm not a huge Monopoly guy myself either. And then, you always see those, the ones who have to criticize it, right? They're the loudest voice usually, and then you see that come up on your Twitter or Instagram feed, and some of them were kind of funny, like Trae Young. I guess Lamine James, John pointed this out, clarified that photo is Trae Young playing during like a fan fest, right?
That's on Panini.
Yes.
Even if it's an inter squad game, I get it. Inter squad game, you're playing against the Hawks, but there has to be someone that knows basketball that is looking at the cards and saying, okay, this cannot go to press. Like, there has to be some kind of guy that understands basketball that's actually looking through these photos or these cards. That's just my 2 cents, but yeah, go on.
I many people will agree with you. Yeah. Like, they'll see the cards,
clean it up, Panini.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Panini's been in the news for other reasons as well, right? Looks like some of their key guys are leaving to work for Fanatics.
Oh,
so
boy.
There might be some kind of huge transition coming up. I guess that's what we're all kind of waiting for. But yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. It's not for everyone. If it brings more people into the hobby that like Monopoly and that's what they're buying it for, then that's a good thing. So I can't knock that.
Did you know 2011 actually had, I don't know if it was Topps, they had a Monopoly collab.
Did they?
Yeah. There was
Okay,
that.
I
This
did
was
not know
back in
that.
2011. But yeah, even the McDonald's collabs I
Right.
enjoy here and there. But
Sure,
I don't know
sure.
if I could buy into this one.
Yeah, and I mean, like for the prices that it's going for, it seems like it's an obvious short-term flip thing. Like
For sure.
I would tread very carefully if that's what you're getting into it for.
Absolutely. Space Jam,
Yeah,
that reminds me of the Space Jam
Space Jam,
blaster
good.
boxes,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
very good comparison. So be careful if you're looking to make a quick flip because it's going to go in a moment. The next time we talk about this, those prices will have drastically come down in terms of what they're selling for. Okay, we'll see how they continue to do in about a week or two. All right, as we said off the top, let's play that interview we had with Denny _cards. All right, it's always a pleasure to have new hobby friends come on the podcast, and today we're looking forward to chatting with Denny, aka Denny _cards on Instagram. We'll provide the link in the show notes below. Now, I always like to give a brief bio for our guests before we get into the questions. So, Denny's a collector who does a little bit of everything in the hobby, a self-proclaimed jack of all trades, master of none. He grew up collecting 90s basketball cards, left the hobby during college, came back into it with some young adult money, which we'll get into later. He left again, he says, when he had kids, and then he came back to the hobby when he turned 40 last year. One look at his Instagram feed, and I could attest for this. I'll show you that he doesn't take himself very seriously, and he loves the hobby a lot. So with that, Denny, welcome to the program again.
Thank you so much. I'm just here not to get fined.
Classic Marshawn. I love it. Love it. All right. So, well, in that brief bio, you mentioned you grew up collecting 90s basketball cards. So let's start from there, right from the beginning. Were you chasing anyone at that time, if you remember? And do you still have any of those cards you collected as a kid?
Oh, yes. Great question. So thank you all for having me. So basically, if you look at my Instagram profile pic, it's Denny Cards with like the NBA Jam logo in the background. And so I think I've grown a lot from that, which, we can talk about maybe later. But when it comes to my love of sports cards, it does come from, I had a local card shop just a block away from, where I grew up in Queens, New York. And that would be the, after school go-to place. Like, other people, I guess, would have like their after school activities or clubs or something that would help them later in life, piano or whatever. I had cards. So growing up in Queens, New York, definitely a lot of New York Knicks fans around me. But that was also, I grew up in the 90s. I'm a 82 baby, right on the line of Gen X and millennial. And so it was Jordan time. I mean, I was captivated by him like everyone else. And there was definitely like a lot of love-hate in the New York area for Jordan. Like, a lot of people loved him and hated him and respected him and revered him. But yeah, I mean, do I have some of the cards that I grew up with or collected? I do. One of the things that I wrote about early on in my Instagram journey was this pack pulled Michael Jordan Scoring Kings, that iconic one with the lightning in the background.
Yeah.
And I gave it away. Trying to make a friend when I moved from New York to Florida. And that was like a really bad moment for me because I just felt like I shouldn't have done it, but I felt peer pressured by this guy to do it. We don't talk anymore, but it's I have no baggage over this whatsoever. No, but like I went to, you guys are Korean, I'm Korean. I went to Korea with my family this past winter break, and my mom saved a lot of my old cards that I had from the early 90s and mid 90s. And like, I know there's an audio component to this and the video component. I won't show the card because I know for audio, which is what the way I consume all of you. And you guys have a wonderful podcast. I heard someone is selling a Luka Silver Prizm, which let's talk after the show.
That's Clark.
I'm putting my hand up. Yeah,
I know. I heard that. No, but like, this probably the best card out of all of them because a lot of them were just like, base Jordans or like, $3 Jordans nowadays. Was like a Kobe Stardate EX2000, which I can't believe I even had.
Crazy.
And so, I just, from 90s basketball, went to college and, for the younger listeners or whatever, like seriously, it's just almost like if you continue to collect cards during that time, that's like more power to you. But a lot of people do leave right around that time, and then they come back to it. And so I'll stop there.
Okay. No, like it's similar stories. You know, a lot of the guests we had previously on the podcast were all, not surprisingly, in the same age group. You know, we're all coming back because out of nostalgia. Yeah. And we remember the junk wax era, and we remember how there was a mass exodus during the college years, like you just mentioned, Denny. And now with the boom of the hobby back in 2020, 2021, we're rediscovering our love for pieces of cardboard, right? Yeah. So, it's been fun. You know, is there anything specific that brought you back into the hobby? I know you mentioned you came back a couple of times, but this most recent time, you know, is there anything that just brought you back? Was it the pandemic like it was for a lot of people, just out of boredom, or was it something else?
That's a great question. So I think for me, I just had like a friend in the area who was, you know, just kind of like casually talking with me about him. And I guess he wasn't like pressuring me to get back into it, but he would like drop it in conversations and we'd talk about sports. And I kept telling him I had these cards in my attic and I never really got to them. And I was just cleaning them out. I watched The Last Dance and I loved it, but my, I guess, like second return into the hobby, I will very much admit that I may be like a happy collector right now because I did not go through the peak and the bubble bursting and holding the bag. I came in like September of 2022, and that's when it really was, because I turned 40. I mean, I talk about nostalgia, talking about, you know, at the time I was joking it was my midlife crisis, and now I'm like, no, this is my midlife crisis. This is absolutely me chasing my childhood and trying to like repair my damaged childhood to an extent, which I can like half kiddingly say. So yeah, that's really what it was me just kind of like, I think, it's just a year, right? I mean, 40, it's like any other year, any other birthday. But I think for certain milestone birthdays, you almost like take inventory of your life. Sure. And, the past is definitely something you can't replace or change. But I think some of us, in some weird, sadistic or weird way, we try to. I don't know. But, I feel like I'm chasing my childhood a little bit, for sure.
Yeah. No, I get that. Was there any cards when you came back into the hobby that you started collecting right away? You know, like for me, when I got back into the hobby, like it was probably 5 or 6 years ago now, like Ken Griffey Jr. was the guy. I'm like, oh, I remember trying to get this card. Now we have a little bit of disposable income. We could spend some dollars into some of these cards on eBay. Was there anything like that for you? Like when you got back to it, like I'm going to look this card up to see if I could buy it.
Oh my goodness. So many 90s rare inserts, so many Jordan cards, so many, I didn't really like collect Kobe because he was like, later, I was like a teenager in college at his peak and all that. But I would say that it's kind of weird for me because when I first got back into the hobby, I fell really hard into Whatnot. And in Whatnot, you basically just buy what's in front of you. Like, the seller has the seller has all the control in their streams, and they were selling a lot of ultra modern. So I would basically like buy a lot of ultra modern, try to like maybe sell it or flip it like down the road. I'm not a flipper. I've realized I'm a terrible seller, but I was collecting like these like base base rookies, hot rookies that everyone else is chasing, because I did kind of fall into the trap of, doing what people said, you should buy or do. Right. But my eye or my heart was always towards like getting like those really rare, Jordan inserts, and some that I didn't even know about because, there wasn't the internet, there wasn't Cardboard Connection, there wasn't like, all these resources that we now have. And I was like, sometimes I'll see people's cards on Instagram and I'm like, I can't believe these cards exist and I didn't even know about them. And, there's this one guy, shout out to like Card Channel, who does like these print runs, for cards that have no parallel numbering. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's only like an estimated 500 of these. And how cool is that? So,
that's cool. Yeah.
I always looked at those for sure. How about you guys? You say the Griffey. What about you, Hyung?
Man, for me, it was the Upper Deck Griffey too. Like, growing up, it was always, I grew up in the 80s, 90s. I'm 82 as well. So like for me, I got into the hobby right in that red Donruss era, the 1990. And this is when Upper Deck was just fresh. So you had the Ken Griffey Chase, the year before. But I didn't have money. Like I didn't come from any money. So it was like when we got to buy a pack of 1990 Donruss cards, it was like, whoa, man, this is a great day.
Yeah.
So yeah, but for me, same thing. I came back into the hobby, started chasing, kind of like, I wasn't a big, like, this is the funny part, is like just listening to everybody who comes back. 90s inserts were the thing. It's crazy how that was the chase, that was the coolest thing. And now, inserts kind of really don't get the love that they used to, right? But there's an art to insert collecting, especially in the 90s, so.
For sure.
That's really interesting to say that because, again, when I launched my podcast, anywhere between 2023 and 2026, a soft launch and then a hard launch.
Speak it into existence.
If you guys remember, like, straight up, like, I remember I had friends who had more money than my family, and they would go to games, right? They would go to see the Knicks or the Mets or whatever, and my family didn't have money. They didn't have the disposable income to take me to games. And so cards were actually the cheaper way the cheaper entry point into sports.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you got cards that are worth more than the seats themselves or like, season tickets.
Yeah, right.
So it's almost like an inverse that happens. But I remember collecting, and again, I kind of wrote about it a little bit, but like, I remember collecting like, at the time, collector's choice packs were like $1, right? And then like on special occasions, I would get like the Flair Showcase, right?
Yeah, big
like
time.
You could always remember,
big time,
big
time pack.
Nice.
I love that, man. But that was like the cheap way to get into the sports world.
For sure,
and
it's true.
It's just now it's like, you got these kids with like Zion cases with cards that are worth more than my entire collection because I'm like a low end, Oh my gosh.
Well, that kind of segues into the next question I had. Now that you're back in it, since September, you said this past September.
Yeah.
How would you describe the hobby now? Other than like a lot of investor types, right? I mean, even young kids are doing it.
Yeah. So I again, very good question, very good interviewer. So for me, I would say that. Because I came in near the end of like the bubble bursting and all that, people were talking about it's a down market, the hobby's dead, and other people who are trying to make a positive spin where it's market correction. I personally feel really fortunate and lucky that I'm able to buy some of the cards that I want to get at affordable prices, because if I did come in during the peak, I may have chased like, some of the more rare 90s inserts at like 3, 4, 5x more than what they're going for now.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to talk about one more card, like the 2008, 2009 Topps Chrome, the iconic card of like LeBron guarding Kobe.
For sure.
I pack pulled that card as a refractor, and my friend who was getting me into the hobby was like, "Do you know that this at one point could buy a car?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "If this is a PSA 10,
that's true.
Yeah, it was.
This could buy not a Lexus, but like a minivan, like."
Oh yeah,
right.
So I'm like, "What?
That's incredible.
That's insane." And then, I just like, we went through the grading process together. I literally did not own a single slab until in my 40s. I did not know about PSA. I remember Beckett and BGS, and that's why my heart goes out to them with all the crazy stuff, which I've heard you guys talk about.
Right. Yeah.
But these, I won't go into a corporations rant. I gotta say, like, now I own way too many slabs, and I need to like consolidate. But I was like really, I don't know, just kind of like enamored with like these certain sets throughout my life that I can, vividly remember. So as a young adult, when I started getting my first, adult paycheck money, it was definitely ripping a lot of 2007, 2008 Upper Deck artifacts, which now only exist for hockey. And 2008, 2009 Topps Chrome. I mean, those, I feel like I've been chasing those. If, in my Instagram feed, you can see some of those pictures where I'm just like, man, this orange refractor, and like, now I'm trying to go for some red refractors, which are really hard to find and really expensive. But it's like kind of chasing all of that. Just chasing that like hidden nostalgia.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you came back have you had a chance to go check out like the local card shows? I don't know if they're frequent in your area or.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna keep saying it. Great question, Clark.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's like you were like a former journalist, maybe, or something.
He is. He was. And I from my view, it's awesome because it's like I'm so engaged in this interview right now that I'm just watching you guys just go back and forth, and it's awesome.
Oh, it's great. I love it. Oh my gosh, yeah. Just talking before the show, like through Instagram DMs, was just it was so great. I mean, at first I'm like, I had no clue you guys were Korean. I'm like, all right, definitely gotta do this podcast now. But that goes really well with the state of the hobby. Like for me, I have a good pulse of the current, but I wasn't collecting in 2020, 2021, early 2022. But I heard, that the hobby was booming and a lot of shows. There's almost like, this past year, like the Mint and Chantilly were the same weekend. Chantilly's only like 40 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
And I couldn't make it for some family reasons. But basically, I feel like there are a lot of good shows. And as a kid, I don't remember going to shows in like New York City, but I remember going to some as a young adult. And then this most recent time, I actually, not only have I gone to local shows, like hyper local, like smaller shows that I've like mini reel or vlogged about, just kind of like, putting some shine to my Northern Virginia, DC metro area local card shows. But I actually set up as one. I don't know what
nice.
I think. I love your guys' podcast, but one podcast that I'll shout out is Sports Card Therapist. He was talking about setting up at shows, and I feel like my growth in the hobby was accelerated by binging his content. And I'm like, what? Like, what is stopping me from doing this? So after the first couple of times when I went to the show, I just spoke to the promoter, and he was like, well, maybe I can fit you in or put you on a wait list, and here's how much it costs. And he gave me a lot of good advice about, how to set up or how to price, and just getting that other perspective from the other side of the dealer table was like really cool. And then I probably by this point, I've done it 4 to 5 times on the dealer side, and I've only been back in the hobby for like 7 months, but it's so fun.
Crazy.
It's so much fun. I make no money. I end up buying. I buy people out with their collections, and again, you get that dealer, little premium, and
Sure.
But I just, my wife's like, "How did you do?" And I'm like, "Okay, before I answer, let me tell you that look at these cards and what they will soon be worth down the road. That said, I lost money today. Like, you were a dealer at a card show from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. and you've lost money." And I'm like, I don't do it for the money. I do it for the, for the fun.
Yeah.
So for sure. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, but I can't post up at Chantilly or any big shows because those table fees are like really high, and
it's not.
I feel like that might be too much for me. But the local shows, it's like anywhere from like $50 to $75 a table, and I'm just like, I think we're all like, I love who is it? Trade You at Recess. I think last episode he's like, we're all like kids at recess, and we're all like, almost like, hey, look at my cards,
sure.
It's almost like I don't even have to have people buy my cards. I just want people to go look at them and go, oh, that looks nice. I mean, of course, it'd be great for them to want to buy because that shows that they have a strong interest in it. Yeah. But it's almost like, for me, it's like, just please validate me and tell me you like you like my collection. But I will very much admit, I have not gotten to the point, because I'm still more of a collector than a seller or flipper or anything like that. I feel that the reason I am not a good seller is I really do not put my really good cards. I don't bring them to shows. I don't like show off my cards. I know some people do to bring table interest, but the cards that I want to keep that are my PC, I don't really like travel with them or bring them to shows. Maybe I should. It's something I can think about. But yeah, I almost set myself up for failure, which is fine. It's a fun time.
Awesome. As long as you're having fun. But you might want to bring one or two of your PC that if someone's willing to pay a good price for it, and then you could always get a better card that you like a little better.
If they would only give me the keys to their minivan and say, "This is yours." No, it's something definitely to consider. And that's the thing for me. It's I'm always learning. I'm always growing. I'm always trying to figure out what to do better. And so I just feel like all of this is like, I thank you all so much for having me here, but it's like just continuing my cardboard journey and learning along the way.
For sure.
Yep. Yeah, I think we share those sentiments for sure. Just connecting with other hobbyists and other collectors has been probably the most fun part about us getting back into the hobby, in addition to collecting the cards we love, right? So,
and I think like hearing from like collectors, you know, like we were hobbyists always, so it was, and then the whole, you know, boom happened. You had a lot of investors come into, like, so-called investors, we'll say, but flippers, right? So it's good seeing, you know, guys that are truly in the hobby because they enjoy collecting. A lot of the time the focus, and that's why we always preach, you know, buy what you love, because ultimately that's probably the best investment anyways, because if you don't have any emotional attachment and you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on cards just so that you could potentially make a flip, you know, for me, like, there's probably better opportunities out there than sports cards, to be honest, but coming, you know, just seeing collectors, like, that's what the hobby's all about. I think that's what makes the hobbies great. That's what makes the shows great, because you don't have the, you know, the flippers and investors trying to, you know, just make a profit on, you know, one card and moving it. And there's a time and place, don't get me wrong, I'm guilty of that, where you know, you got to make your money, and, you know, but then you could add that to the PC, right? So always good seeing fellow collectors out there doing it because they love to do it, right? So
yeah,
there's absolutely nothing that I can say to refute anything, and I think you said it really well. And I've heard that a lot, you know, buy what you collect, what you buy, and, you know, love what you collect, and all that stuff. But in a way, for me, I think that buying cards that I have I almost feel like I have too much emotional attachment to the cards that I have.
100%.
And so I feel like I need to, and that's why I've gotten more into baseball and football, is so that I can, in a way, make not like 2x, you know, I'm not never, but ideally it would be great to try to 2-3 extra money, but, you know, we're not in that world anymore. And when you talk about cards as potential ways to, you know, people talk about investing and all that, like, you know, we all know that, like, the stock market is like, you know, on a lucky year, it's 10%. You know, it's like slow and steady growth is 6%, 7% a year. Again, I'm sorry, I'm talking from the American perspective. I don't know how, you know.
No worries.
Similar.
Yeah.
By the way, last episode, I wrote down somewhere in my notes, like, you guys were talking about how there's like a thing called email transfer.
Oh yeah,
e-transfer, yeah.
Why? I mean, I know why the U.S. doesn't have it, because it's capitalism and all that. But I love that you can just email someone and get money from them. That is,
it's
like,
crazy. It's great.
So simple. Yeah, so simple.
100%.
No,
instant.
Here we have to monetize it. So there are no fees? Like,
no fees. I have $0. I have a plan. I send Clark up to $10,000. I have 0 fees. It's just in his bank account instantly. So simple. It's crazy.
Canadian though, right? Canadian 10,000.
Yeah, so it's like 2,000 US.
So 8,000 maybe 7 US.
No, but that's fantastic. But no, what was I going about Canada? Like, I totally forgot what I was saying, y'all.
It's all right.
I hope you guys have a good time at the Toronto Expo, though. I'm so.
Oh yeah.
That's the other thing I learned. To speak like a true Toronto. Well, I don't even know Torontonian.
Yeah.
You never pronounce the second T. It's always Toronto, right? Not Toronto.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Toronto.
You're absolutely right.
We know who it's not from Toronto if they say it that way. Yeah. But
Toronto.
But
yeah, that's right.
Anyway, I like what you said about you know, like, coming back into the hobby. We're always learning different things about the hobby, different aspects about the hobby, and actually one of the reasons why your account kind of stuck out to me, and when I started going down the rabbit hole of Denny_cards on Instagram, is your one post, well, when you were documenting your buying selling process on Instagram by showing your eBay auctions.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because I'm actually, like, I've been in the hobby for back into the hobby for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And Hyung could speak to this too, because he's done it like what you have, just done eBay auctions starting at 99 cents. I'm still too scared to do that. So I'm like, good for you, Denny. Good for you to test the market that way. And then what's funny, some people you mentioned were getting upset that you sold for under comps or whatever that means to people, right? Because your accounts might be smaller and the eBay algorithm might not work in your favor when you're a smaller account. what, like, I just want to get your thought process of that whole ordeal. Like, what did you learn from that? And is there anything you did learn from that experience?
So before I answer that question, for the video portion of this, I just want to say, like, I am, like, for the record, I've been nodding my head during that whole time. And for the video folks, I didn't mention this in the beginning, but I am wearing sunglasses. It is evening time, but I have allergies. My eyes are so bloodshot red, and I may have a stuffy nose right now and all that stuff. So pardon me, like, never trust anyone who wears sunglasses at night, by the way, right? So let's get that out of the way.
We'll cut the disclaimer out.
Yeah. If the eyes are the windows to the soul, right now I'm just like, do not look at my soul. So two things I got to say about that question, which, by the way, is a really good one. First is, you got to start somewhere, right? I mean, we all have to start from zero, whether it's their Instagram account, whether it's eBay or anything you do, you start from zero. And I had cards that I wanted to sell. It would have been easy for me to go to a consignor or go to somewhere else. And I've done some consignment. It's weird. I've received some consignments, and I've put some with a consignment. And the market is, I've definitely gotten burned by the market. I mean, I wrote a lot about the Aaron Judge card, which I won't talk about too much because it's a bad beat poker story. But for me, ultimately, when I would look at Card Ladder or 130 Point, and I would see all these comps, I guess in a way it was like my way of trying to share another data point. And I wasn't going to be doing it with like $100 cards or even like $50 cards, but I was starting with small cards, and yeah, some of them went below comp, but I mean, it wasn't like 70% off comps or 50. I mean, we're talking like literal dollars, and people are just getting so upset. And with raw cards, condition matters. Like, some comps might be low because the pictures on the cards could clearly look off center, or wear and tear on the corners and edges and all that. So for me, it was my way of putting faith into the masses on eBay to say, here are my cards, and you tell me what they're worth. And that's what ultimately we say is, card is only worth what someone's willing to pay.
Right.
And I promoted a couple of them, and I was just testing it out, 5-day auctions, 7-day auctions. Right. And then I think the big thing that happened for me was, I had someone who wanted to consign with me, or a couple of people who were like, you know what, I just do not want to catalog, list, ship, and all that. You take a cut. I may get burned in the end, but I just want these cards out of my house. I want to get liquid, so I want them done real quick in 5-day auctions. I want the money as soon as you get the payout, send it to me and all that, and you do all the work. And I just want to be liquid. And so that individual who is a wonderful, woman friend, like, I don't like to use the word female, but like, a woman in the hobby, was very trusting of the market, and said, okay, like, let's see what the market is willing to bear for these. And I was like, yeah, she's got more balls than a lot of people. she's going for it. She's like, yeah, I'm going to go and test the market out. And there's some cards that, she and I have been burned on, and some cards that do better than we expect. Right. But ultimately, if you want, I'm not going to become a big consignor any day soon, but you got to start somewhere. And so I started with zero, and it's the hourly wage part of it. It sucks. It's terrible. It's below minimum wage. You're losing money. But the thing that I say about it is, it's not work for me. I love spreadsheets. I love cataloging. It's like, I'm like cutting my teeth, right? Like, I, as a newer entrant back into the hobby, it allows me to learn and when I'm cataloging, or I'm sleeving, or I'm packing, like, I'm just listening to podcasts like your guys's, and it's like my hobby time. Like, and the best thing about it is, straight up, and this is why I started selling on Whatnot a little bit too, a few months ago. You're not buying. It's like hobby time, where I'm not looking at auctions trying to win, and spend more money. It's like just grinding it out and cutting my teeth somewhere. And and it's almost like, again, chasing our childhoods. I mean, not that I was like a child laborer, but like as a teenager or like a young adult,
right.
it makes you appreciate having like the value of money again, right? It's almost like I feel like, oh my gosh, like I grinded out for like $50. Like it makes me not want to spend that willy-nilly like I would otherwise with like just money from outside the hobby, from my disposable income just coming in. It just makes me want to make more like better choices, I think.
Yeah. No, that's good point. Good advice for sure. Hyung and I always joke that, when we have losses, which we do, because if you listen to our podcast way back, we run a segment called Dead Wrong, where we're accountable to one another and like in bad decisions and things we got burned on. And anytime that happens, we always say, it's going to be good content. It's going to be great content.
Worst case scenario, it's great content.
And we're talking only about cards, right? Not in life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both.
Exclusively cards. By the way, your guys' segments, I love your intro music. I mean, again, I'm going to shout out another podcast that listen to Sports Card Nonsense. Like, they are like a ringer podcast. They have so much production value, so much money behind it. And, I really do like both hosts. Like, I know some people like Mike Gio gets on them and all that, but I really love all different types of podcasts. But and I love your guys' chemistry, and I love their chemistry. But the co-host like does these funny sounds with his mouth, like do 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 do. Here's the next segment, boop, 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 boop. And I'm like, y'all have like $1 million studio.
But, they definitely have a bigger budget than we do.
Yeah.
But
you what do you come up with? I mean, we can talk offline about it, but I want to know how you do your segment, like, adjust segues. It's awesome.
I'll give you all the tips and links that you need, so you're set. And then we'll even become guests on your podcast, if the invite's there. So
2025.
Okay, well, I'll help you, so maybe you can be ready for 2024. So we'll try to get that hit that deadline. No, but appreciate your insight on the whole buying selling. And like, to your point, the alternative is if you don't do auctions or if you don't consign, you're like me, where you just set a buy it now and you're just waiting forever. And you can't be liquid at any point.
Well, that's
unless
right.
Right.
Well, bin is a great option for a lot of folks who don't have to be so liquid, and they're like, right, if I'm willing to sit on this, and just it's okay for me. Like, and there's some people like, extracting the most value out of the money. Like, I've come around with that like mindset. I don't think one's better over the other. I think there's just different ways of doing it, and there's what I love about this hobby. There's so many different ways to do all of this.
100%.
And eBay is just one of them. I'm not like, I feel like a guy with like the NASCAR with the hats, like all these different things that I'm saying, but all these places have had influences on me. But there's this new marketplace called My Card Post, where it's almost like Netflix subscription based model where you pay a monthly fee, and there are no eBay like listing fees or transaction fees involved. I mean, they don't do auction. It's like all buy it now basically, but you can like, buy, sell, and trade. And buyers, it's free to like register, but for sellers, you pay like whatever it is per month. And I love that idea because it's just another avenue or alternative to the marketplace. And I know your last episode, you talked about like market fragmentation and Josh Luber white
paper. Right, I was going to mention that. Yeah.
But straight up for me, I think we need more competition in all aspects of the industries. Like eBay is such a behemoth, and yes, we rely on eBay for comp so much. But for me, I actually like that there are different ways to buy, sell, and trade. And so, I'm not going to like, challenge Josh Luber to a dance off here, but I think he has some really good points. But I'm also just of a different mindset when it comes to that type of thing. So
for sure,
I feel like I should be wearing like a My Card Post like t-shirt.
I'm curious now. I never heard of it before. You just mentioned it like 10 seconds ago. So My Card Post.
Yeah, My Card Post.
Got it.
They again, I don't want to equate like Canada must be hockey and hockey must be Canada, but a lot of their subscriber base is hockey cards or hockey collectors. And
interesting.
I think it's because the owner, the creator of it, is a huge hockey collector himself. But I think it's just like a really cool, different way to do things because, again, this hobby is so big. It is so big. There's so much to consume and enjoy and do.
All right.
Absolutely. That's why John's not here, but the three of us are super bullish on the hobby and look forward to seeing what else evolves from, this space, right? But
can I ask you guys a question? What do you guys think about the whole like Michael Rubin 10x the hobby type of thing?
Love it. What do you mean? Like what?
Darn,
about,
I'm not good at asking questions. Like that was not a good question if it's just got a one word answer. How do I? So this is me. I have to like hone my
interviewing skills.
So Clark and Hyung, recently there was a comment made by CEO of Fanatics, Michael Rubin, where he said that the hobby, the sports card industry, was not doing well when it comes to marketing itself, and that there's a lot of untapped potential customers, and that he and Fanatics were planning to 10x the hobby.
Right.
Yeah. Do we believe it?
Why? Yeah. I was trying to make a joke and I got stuck. How do you feel about that?
Do we believe it, or do you think it's just bravado on the part of Michael Rubin?
What's the athlete question? Like, you made that play on the field. Like, walk us through that, or like, Coach Pop hates, the reporters asking questions like that. Right. No, but you guys are bullish on the hobby. I mean, you said it yourself, so.
Sure. No, we get the Hyung, you want to take this one?
For me, it's a little different because my perspective is coming from kind of like outside the hobby. I look at things from kind of like an unbiased perspective because when you deal with capitalism, business is business, right? So I look at it as a kind of like a macro lens kind of deal, and I kind of agree with him. It's like you had people that were hobbyists that were running kind of like the industry, and it really hasn't. You really haven't used proper marketing strategies to market this hobby outside of the hobby itself. So for me, I'm very big on, like, I do this for a living. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in digital marketing. I understand social media, outside of the sports card, right? So for me, it makes sense because I'm looking at it in a perspective of the same as a CEO would look at it. Why would he not expose one of the strengths that he knows that's not being implemented in one of his brands that could totally, use his resources to reach, extended members that we haven't even had a chance to market to. So for me, I get it. Like, it totally makes sense. And it's not a thing where it's like, oh, this guy's blowing smoke up people's ass. And he has to say that because he's the CEO. He doesn't really care about these hobbyists. It's like, no, it's actually in his best interest to do this because, he wouldn't have been making these huge moves. And these aren't simple, tens of millions of dollars that we're talking about. We're talking about paradigm shifts, industry moves, hundreds of, millions in billions of dollars, right? So yeah, it's just a lack of, I guess, perspective at the end of the day. It depends on how you see it. If you see it just as a hobbyist, I could see that it could be like, I'm not too sure. But from my standpoint, I'm looking at it from the outside in, unbiased, non-emotional, more logic-based of what needs to be done to better the hobby. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Denny, first I want to say that's a really great question. I think you got you're a natural at this already. But I think it's just as simple as I see a lot of low-hanging fruit in the way you can make the hobby better. Like Topps and the legacy companies have been just resting on their butts, so to speak, for such a long time. And when they lost their license to the MLB Players Association, like that, they just assumed that they would have it forever. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And now, as Hyung mentioned, this paradigm shift and a different perspective in the hobby, like how we see the hobby. We see different possibilities now on how there can be actual tremendous growth. So 10x might be, it just seems like an arbitrary number.
Yeah.
But I get his point that there's so many low-hanging fruits to begin with that you can at least grow it rapidly right away from the beginning, but you still got to keep working at it. And I feel like Michael Rubens hasn't shown me anything else other than the fact that that's what he's committed to doing.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, like you hear all these announcements, you're like, oh, that's a really great idea, actually. Someone should have thought of that before, but there was no incentive for these legacy companies to do it because, there was no competition until very recently.
Right. Can I give you my take on it or my opinion on it?
Yeah, of course.
I think that 10x is the arbitrary number that I think a lot of people are hanging there. Like, it's very soundbitey. I think that any X is good. I mean, because you want to grow at the hobby. I know some people are very exclusionary, like this is our hobby and put up the walls and this is us. And it's like, that's not good. I mean, that's like a very closed, literally, figuratively closed, mentality and mindset.
Yeah.
But when it comes to growing the hobby, because, grow the hobby, make it more diverse, like look at us and just having more people from all walks of life entering into the hobby. I think that the first few X's, 2, 3X, 4X is low hanging fruit, and that's going to be easier. And then really it's going to get a lot harder to get other folks because cards have been around for so long since the early 1900s where some people, I feel like genetically need to collect and the bad word being hoard. I'm blurred my background and you can't see my stuff. I have cards in stacks. My wife if I have to tell her to find one card for me, she would just be like, I would rather just
do something else.
Right. It would take them forever to find one card or a stack of cards. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what the stack is. Right? I'm just staring at it. I'm like, I have no clue why you're here. But you're in arm's reach of me. So I feel like for some people, and maybe it's not cards, they just have to collect, right? I mean, they have to collect stamps or glass. But, we call ourselves the hobby because we keep saying we're the best hobby in the world. And it's very presumptuous of us to say that. But it is very I don't know, how many types of glass can you collect? For cards, there's so much diversity and all the different genres and subgenres. But I'm going to weave that into saying something about the 90s where you had Topps and Upper Deck and you had competition between these companies where they would try to outdo each other and get really great graphic designers and, go out of the box and try to get more creative in the interest of the consumer because that's how they're going to market themselves. And then, I think the worst thing that happened is when the either the NBA or the NBPA, I forget which one, but when they said we're going to do exclusive license to one, licensee and have them go international and make our brand international. It's when Panini bought the license, I just feel like what incentive did they have? Right. And now, so it's almost we talk about disruption in the industries and, Blockbuster, in our well, I think in Canada too, but it was everywhere, and now it's gone. It doesn't exist, right? And now it's all Netflix, and it's almost like these companies were we're gonna be here forever. We're good. We just rest on our laurels, and it's no, you can lose your license. It happened to Topps and Upper Deck with the NBA. Now it's happening to Panini. Now it's gonna loop back to Topps, Fanatics. And, with Upper Decks, sitting in the background. But for me, it's yes, let's get more people. I hope Fanatics, with their monopoly of all their licenses for the NBA and NFL and all that, that they don't just go, oh, we can just do whatever we want. I really hope that. I think we are the last hope that the hobby has is us ourselves, the consumers, being that's not good enough, or I'm not going to hate on him from doing this, but I remember that Fanatics was and again, I'm only slowly getting into baseball, but they were by the end of March or beginning April, we're going to have a industry changing revolutionary announcement. And then it's these little patches on the uniforms. And it's what? That caters to the 0.001% of collectors.
I love it.
The only people who are going to collect those patches are the mega rich who can afford that super exclusive one of one, right? I mean, that's not attainable for us. Yeah.
No, I get that, but I feel it was the principle almost. If you could, because the main complaint about relic patches generally speaking, is that you don't know where it's from, but now this is very specific, and it's got a cool concept, which I think can be extrapolated to other products. So I hope that's the intent, but all your other points are legit. Those are the primary concerns for sure, right? When you have someone like Fanatics taking over pretty much everything, is history going to repeat itself? Is a big question,
right? And I think Fanatics has to understand that. They have to realize they are the industry leaders, and they have to be the innovative ones that, take calculated risks. But I think for me, there's a lot of opportunity on the user experience at the end of the day, right? Because that's what keeps people in the hobby. And also from, a manufacturer standpoint, if you're Topps, Panini, and Fanatics, now at this point, it's like you want people to rip. You want to keep, people coming back for releases because they're excited to really rip your product. And I think where Fanatics can really, step up their game, I think it was, to your point, that whole, first MLB game patch. I think the concept of it was the right idea, where look at the potential that Fanatics can actually create a rare, memorabilia piece that never existed in kind of like our hobby before, where you're getting not even game worn patches. They're manufactured patches that if you get a relic, you're like, God dang it, I got a relic. Like, that shouldn't happen. It's a hit. It's like, yes, I got a relic. That's the way it should be. And that's where I think, Fanatics will step up their game because of, their parallel side businesses of, being in the collectibles already and being able to be innovative where, these other brands like Topps and Panini never really had a chance to. So I'm really looking forward and optimistic on the user experience side of things, because I feel like, as a ripper, everybody knows your odds aren't for you. You know what I mean? And more people realize that with hundreds of parallels, it's like, man, you're chasing a needle in a haystack pretty much. So I hope that they, really focus on the user experience and be able to create, better incentives just for the average kind of collectors. Like you said, nobody's going to, spend or have that kind of money to buy that one of one patch on a sleeve, that everybody wants, right? So where's the consolidation, right? So,
yeah.
So, no, that really good points, Hyung. And can I just say that, again, I don't know how much time we have left. This is really great. I love time flies so fast. I've been on a few other podcasts where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been like 30 minutes or an hour and all that stuff. So I was going to save this. What I'm about to say, straight up, I had it in my notes. I was going to save it for my, again, future podcast. For the most part, my talking points are Chat GPT created, right? So I don't, none of these are original thoughts. All of what I'm saying is just, I might as well be a robot here. But at this point, I have not heard anyone say. So if someone did say it, kudos. But I will straight up I will say that this is like a Denny _cards original idea, but it may already even be in the works. I don't know, but I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to speak it into existence.
Yes.
I'm not sure if Michael Rubin is a listener to this show, but if we can somehow get this particular concept or idea to him, again, I've never heard it say it. So here I go. The redemption process for Panini, like we all know, just sucks. People hate it.
Yeah.
Topps, I guess, does do a better job, and they're more fulfilled and redeemed. So what if you took the worst? Okay, you like Michael Rubin. What if you, Michael Rubin, took the worst aspect of the hobby, or one of the worst aspects of the hobby, and turned it into one of the coolest aspects of the hobby? And what I am talking about is exactly what Hyung was talking about. They're already in the collectibles and like the uniforms and jerseys and all that. What if these redemptions for the cards, like, yes, it's a card. It's a 2.5 inch by 3.5 inch piece of cardboard, and it's a redemption card. But what if instead of an autograph signed card, you get a collectible? You 100%. Get an actual game used jersey. 100%. You get a helmet. You get a ball. You get something back where you're like, oh my gosh, I hit, whatever. Like, depends on who you have license for. So it's not going to be like a LeBron and or Jordan. I mean, maybe, right? If they
maybe in the near future. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, can you imagine getting a Julio Rodriguez game used bat?
100%.
That you can not just photo match, but they will tell you this is used on July 1st.
Exactly.
2025 when Denny's podcast comes out. So like straight up, you make one of the worst aspects of the card collecting industry into one of the most best and awesome ideas. Like just speaking that out into
love it.
I love it. Yeah, I 100% agree with you, and that's what we're hoping. If they do that, they have access to that, right? And I agree. That's probably one of the worst things in the hobby right now. So it's like fixing that and coming up with a good solution that will make the hobby better. Those are the things I'm bullish on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Mr. Michael Rubin, if you're listening to this podcast, just write that idea down from Denny _cards.
And we're going to have Michael Rubin on Denny _cards Instagram as a special guest. Well, he doesn't know it yet, but we'll get him there.
I thought he was your guest next week. I thought I was.
We'll let him know.
No? We're still working on it. But...
What chances do you put him coming to the Toronto Expo?
Maybe I don't know. He's been making his rounds, especially in the States, right? Obviously probably not this weekend. We have our April show. We have April and November. Those are the two biggest shows. Yeah. So it probably won't be.
If you want to 10x the hobby, you got to go international. And I mean,
come on, Michael.
Yeah,
let's do it. Yeah, let's go.
Press. I was gonna say shake the hands, kiss the babies, or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, you got Jeff, the sports card investor, already in the Toronto show. He came up a couple of years ago, right? So
yeah, that's right.
He's doing his thing.
He's got to sell that Disney somewhere. So
that's a whole new episode.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you teased a little bit of what your future podcast might sound like with your ideas. Is that what you like talking about? Like, when it comes to hobby, what other things do you like? Chatting about specifically? Is there anything or?
So I love Instagram for so many reasons. I think it's the perfect medium to show cards like in picture form. But when it comes to video, it's not long form. I thought about doing YouTube. I like the idea of long form because just even today to prepare for this podcast, I kind of put up a poll or a question out to Instagram, just kind of talking about. Basically it was a question about liquidity and ROI, but I wanted people to kind of think about it and see what, gauge the answers. But what I realized with some of the responses was there's so much nuance and so much gray area to something you can't just, Twitter it has 140 characters, but like you just can't put it out in like a really simple yes or no question. And we all know that life isn't about black and white and yes or no. There's a lot of gray. And so when I have these conversations with folks, like in my DMs with Instagram, or even in the comment section of some of my posts, like I don't like the engagement just for the numbers, or like I'm not clout chasing. I love learning. And so for me, when people are engaging with my content, it's a way for me to learn too and ask questions along the way. And for folks to kind of like give me the perspective. And of course, I try to crowdsource things, and it's not just one person's voice, but I get to learn from, some of the people who I get the opportunity to listen to or chat with are like really experienced, and some of them are like industry leaders, and I won't shout them out because I don't want to tell people who I DM, but like there's some really smart, clever people where I'm just like, man, that I didn't think about it that way, whether it is macro or micro. And so I think just reaching out to people and building those relationships is so important, so that you do continue to learn, because we can't be silos in all of this. Otherwise, why even be? I mean, this is like one of the most engage. I guess it could be very isolatory if you wanted, and you just rip, Percy's by yourself, and no one can see whatever. like, Can I just say, I feel like that Luca 1 of 1 Black Prizm rookie is like out there. Someone has it, and like you just don't know. Yeah. But like when it comes to this hobby, it can be as engaging and you can be as extroverted as you want, and I just love being able to engage with folks on all sorts of topics, whether it is to more specifically answer your question, like when it comes to grading and cleaning and doing whatever, like breaks or streams or like all sorts of things, like the eBay things. So many people were giving me good advice about how to ship cards better or to, make more efficiencies. And in turn, I was like, hey, if you guys want to make a Excel spreadsheet, which is very basic and simple, just, columns, adding and subtracting fees, like, just let me know and I'll send it to you. And I've sent it to like, a dozen people, and it's really
awesome.
fun to just learn
Very
and
cool.
help. And,
sure.
It's just a cycle because we all have to help each other out.
Yeah. Love it, man. Hobby needs your podcast, so we'll get started on that right away. We can't wait till 2025.
Yeah, you got to get that going, man. You're a natural, 100%.
Yeah, let's do it. I'll
Thanks,
help
man.
you out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, speaking of helping each other out, I'm there for you. So
yeah, thank you.
You know what? Like you said, when we're having fun and chatting about sports, we feel this way. We don't just say it, but we have our weekly podcast every Tuesday, every other Friday, and I feel like Hyung, it feels like it goes by quickly.
Flies
right?
by every single. Trust me, we couldn't be doing this. This is episode 128. 128 episodes. That's 2 years, almost a year and a half. 2 years, yeah. So that's almost every week. Now. We really haven't missed a week, and it's always. And I'm busy. I'm so busy right now, but I always, or at least not always. I majority of the time try to find the time, and this hour usually just absolutely flies by, just because you're just talking cards. You're just a little kid again and just excited, right? So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, thanks for joining once again, and we usually end off with like 4 or 5 rapid fire questions. They're not really rapid fire because people can answer as long as they want, but it's very simple questions.
Yeah, that's a problem with me, as you can tell, because
I'll cut you off if we need to, but if you don't mind, you ready for the rapid fire?
Let's do it. Right. I don't know. I've not seen these questions ahead at all.
You have not.
Yeah, no worries.
That's guaranteed.
It makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, we always usually do similar questions, but the first one: favorite card you currently own, and why?
I have listened to your episodes, but well, maybe it wasn't the interview ones. Maybe it's the one where you guys all talk. My favorite card that I own, I mean, I'll just go back to that Scoring King. I have it now. I don't have the actual copy that the kid manipulated and stole from me in a way, but I have a PSA 7 copy of it, and that's my favorite card because it brings back the most nostalgia. Yeah.
Awesome. To Jordan, right?
Yeah. Jordan Scoring
nice.
King.
All right, 2. What's your Grail card?
Like that I want to chase, that I eventually want to get to.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't want to be so cliche. I mean, but sometimes like the heart wants what it wants. I mean, I've thought a lot about the 86 Fleer Jordan rookie card.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. That's a Grail card.
I hate it's the first. I don't want to get too clever, smart, beyond myself and say something really off the wall. It's the 86 Fleer, but like not in a PSA.
Understood.
Like it can be a PSA 2 or 3. Just eye appeal, so long as it looks nice. I mean, it can be whatever. The back can look like junk, but so long as the front looks nice. Yeah,
that's a good answer. Yeah, for sure. All right, 3. Not to get too negative. Do you have any pet peeves about the hobby, or any one particular pet peeve about the hobby?
Oh man, again, I'm really answering these first thing that comes to my mind. Reckless Cards, shout out to them, love them so much. Reckless Cards, Courtney, she does a lot of educational videos, and one of her recent things to talk about is like Scotch tape on top loaders. I literally next to me, I have the
painter's tape.
The painter's tape.
You need that.
It's so great.
Yeah.
The biggest pet peeve is trying to take that Scotch tape off a package.
That's a good one.
That is
up
there
annoying
for a lot of hobbyists.
Because you can't cut it, because like you slide that card out, it could get caught by the stickiness too. So it's just a bad.
Oh yeah, it's
just a bad.
I mean, if you had like a Family Feud like top 5, like that answer's got to be talking to the 100 hobbyists. Name the biggest pet peeve. That's got to be in like the top 2, top 3.
Agreed. All right, number 4, overrated or underrated. This is more recent. Overrated or underrated. We do this segment too occasionally. The Monopoly Prizm basketball cards.
Oh man, I'm guessing you asked that because did you see my feed where I superimposed the Draymond Green stepping over DeMontis Sabonis?
Yeah.
I did see that. Yeah,
I made that into a Prizm card.
That's amazing.
I mean, look, again, first answer that comes to my mind is that it's overrated. But maybe it's properly rated because it's also getting a lot of hate. I mean, a lot of people are like railing against the numerous parallel Prizm, all that, and just too much. It's oversaturation, and it's Panini bleeding its printing presses dry until it's like ground to dust. But
right.
yeah, I mean, generally I want to say overrated, but I mean I feel like it's so fun to hate on it that it's almost maybe this properly rated.
Yeah, I get that, but the correct answer is it is overrated.
Yeah, correct answer.
Well, just look at some of the prices these rare parallels are going for. It's kind of insane. All right, last question, and this is a common theme of our rapid fire questions. Everyone knows, or not everyone, but a lot of people are growing to know that Cards to the Moon, we are a Canadian production.
Yeah.
We are from Toronto. Silent T, silent second T. So do you have a favorite Blue Jays or Raptors player that you like to collect?
Oh, man. So I can't say Blue Jays because I'm more basketball. Raptors. I mean, I this isn't my answer, but I did want to ask you, and I'm not like trying to delay for my answer, but because he won you a championship, do you claim Kawhi as one of Toronto's finest Raptor players ever?
Yes, I do.
You claim him?
I do. I have to. It's our only championship, man. Like, that was a huge part of it.
Clark's got a little.
John and Hyung are on the same page. I hold a grudge, man. I am like just it's still a bitter taste in my mouth, and it's all about Kyle Lowry that year. Okay.
Kyle Lowry, yeah, he's the one who won it. Him and like what was it, Jose Calderon, and like like the coach, his system. No, Kawhi, he was almost like a mercenary.
Kawhi
Nick Nurse.
Yeah,
it's almost like a.
We couldn't have one without Kawhi. That's
that's impossible.
That shot against the Sixers was
crazy.
Oh, iconic already.
Okay, so I promise you I wasn't delaying, because the simple answer for me, because of the 90s and all that, it really is Vince Carter in that original Raptors uniform.
Yeah.
Like, I posted about this a long time ago on my feed, but I had also like a Vancouver Grizzlies baseball cap. Not
that's
baseball cap, but like basketball.
Cool.
Like Mitchell and Ness hat. I can't find it. I couldn't find it. But I love that original logo of the Grizzlies. I love the original logo of the Raptors. I mean, I know the slash in the basketball looks cool, but when I think about like that, how that old dinosaur looks like, and with Vince in it and just yamming on people left and right, like I just love that. I don't have a big Vince Carter collection. I would say that when it comes to PC, like I don't really have a strong it might I was gonna say like I almost like would want to say I really love and respect, now that I'm older, like Steve Nash, and I know he's not a Raptor, but he's like a Canadian player.
He's
right?
Canadian, sure.
Like, man,
one
like
of the greatest Canadians.
No, he just flat out, like I feel like I have, well, I don't want to jinx it, but like through eBay I have a orange refractor 2008-2009
nice.
Topps Chrome, so it's almost like a color match, right, with like orange and him in the Suns uniform. So but yeah, now I want to like go buy after we're done recording this podcast. I want to go buy on eBay.
That's usually the symptoms after Cards to the Moon podcast. You go on eBay and you start sniping.
That's our routine. That is our routine.
Yeah,
good answer.
My answers. Thank you guys.
I love it. Good answer. We always joke the way our guests answer the last question is helps us to determine if you're going to get called back on the podcast. Great answer.
Well, I kind of feel bad because it's such a easy, low-hanging answer that I gave. Like Vince Carter, I should have said like Andrea Bargnani or
that would have been impressed.
Yeah, that would have been impressive.
Yeah, like
Popeye Jones or something.
Oh my gosh, have you seen his old, like before he was a Raptor, he was on the Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah.
The ears popping out. Oh my gosh, his cards.
I remember that. Wow. Yeah,
that dude.
Nice.
Oh, what a way to
memory lane.
Totally.
Well, Denny, again, thanks for joining us, and we really appreciate you. We're looking forward to seeing more of your content. Denny_cards on Instagram. I'm sure you guys will see him in your feeds if you haven't already. But yeah, we'd love to have you back on, anytime. And good luck to you in your hobby journey.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. Like, I'm seriously looking forward to your podcast. So you're gonna have to, keep your word with that.
Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much. This was such a blast. You guys are awesome, and I'm gonna continue to just listen to and just follow you guys with all the awesome things you guys are doing. And final thing I'll say is tell Michael Rubin I said hello.
Awesome.
We'll do that. We'll do that for sure. All right. Yeah, that was a great interview with Denny. I never know how long these interviews will go for, but it's always great when we have a guest out where we, next thing you know, it's an hour. And that's when you kind of know that we had a lot of fun just talking about cards, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, he's born for the podcast. He needs to start his own. He has the personality for it, so he could have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we could have had a 24-hour marathon. I promise. Yeah, no, it's awesome to see the passion for sure, and I'm looking forward to getting him on the show with Will. I think that would be a good little mic up session.
We need to make that happen. All right, let's end off this show with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And this is when both of us, we will put up a couple of cards and then we just debate which one we would rather invest in. All right, so Hyung, do you want to go first? I know we screwed up the order last time and it just didn't work out so well for me. So why don't you start and then let's go from there.
All right, and I'm going back to my old, my pre-COVID Chase. This was my guy, and he's on fire. And we talked about him last year. The knee obviously concerned me. It's Ronald Acuna Jr., but he's come out the gate swinging, stealing bags. Atlanta's winning as usual. So you got a lot of excitement kind of, and I feel like 2018 with the Luka hype, as well as Ohtani, you had Gleyber Torres, you had Acuna, you had Juan Soto. Right. It was such a great year. So for me, 2018 was kind of like the memory of when I came back into the hobby. So Acuna chases has always been one of my favorite kind of like hobby things coming into it. I'm going to pair two Acuna cards, because I think probably on episode 3 of Cards to the Moon, I probably I did this one, but I'm gonna do it again because I know my answer is gonna change. But I'm gonna pair up his 2018 Topps Chrome Sapphire PSA 10. So there's a pop of 108. The last sold for 3,300. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna pair that up with my second, or my other favorite card. I shouldn't say second, because I think this might be taking first now, is the SSP white jersey vertical of the Topps update. So that's the US 250, the white jersey SSP vertical, where he's batting. It's a pop 59 in a PSA 10, and the last sold for 4,200. So it's a little bit more, and I personally think Acuna is still overpriced. So I'll put that up there. So, I was fortunate enough to sell kind of at the peak. I think there was a lot of hype with Acuna coming in. So I think that the hype really settled and, a lot of prices corrected. But these two, you ask any Acuna collector, these two cards are probably going to be at the top of any kind of Acuna fans list. The white jersey obviously has a lower pop count, but it is paper. And the Chrome Sapphire is super limited, and it's just a beautiful card with huge eye appeal. Which one are you going to go for?
Yeah, I remember you asking this one. This might be the third time we're kind of revisiting it, and it's always interesting to see if we choose the same answer.
Man, it's always going back and forth.
It's going back and forth, but I believe the last time we did this, I chose the white jersey. And I think the reason for it was like it's just such an iconic photo now,
right?
And the eye appeal. Speaking of eye appeal, the Sapphire is beautiful, of course, but this one, just the composition of the photo, the batting stance and everything, like I think it's becoming more iconic as time passes, and especially for Acuna collectors and even baseball card collectors in general. So I'm not changing my mind this time. I'm going with the white jersey. And I think more so now that we've kind of gone past the 2021 bubble or the hype period, I just value rare cards that much more.
Right.
So pop count, for instance, is a bigger factor for me in terms of collecting, cards, especially when we're talking about thousands of dollars.
Right. Because when we're in the height of the like the boom, it was the opposite for us, where we're focusing on liquidity because you want to exit, right?
Yeah.
So that's
100%.
Yeah.
So that's exactly why I'm sticking with the Acuna. It's just the white jersey, just because where we are in the market right now, and more for as a collector, to be frank, the rarity, I love it.
Right. So you're basically saying you'd pay a little bit more for the lower pop count as an investment long term. That would be kind of like the safe play, right?
Yep.
Interesting. No, nice. I think I've been going back and forth with this, for the last 2 years, and I'm still making that decision. And yeah, it's crazy that I'm gonna pick this, but I think for the price point where the Sapphire is, I've been an owner of both cards. I've actually had two PSA 10s of each at one point.
Wow!
And,
right.
And both cards were, at the time, this was in 2019 when I got both of them. It was such a tough card to find. The pop count wasn't as high on the Sapphire, but I feel like it's going up, and maybe people are crossing more over. And I think majority of people usually run into chrome versus paper. And this is why I kind of go back and forth. The white jersey is paper, and a lot more people like the chrome, and the bat down is such an iconic image. And for me, like, this time I'm going Sapphire just because, like I said, it's the iconic bat down image and a chrome version. There's no parallels to the bat down. So normally, your paper variations is your US 250, which is your bat up. You'll have your Independence Day, your black, your camo, your Father's Day, Mother's Day. There's no bat down parallels. So for me, the Sapphire is the only bat down parallel. Other than the Top Series 2 SP that the bat down is, right? So, and then the Topps update kind of came later at the end of the year, similar time when Sapphire released. But I just like that cool rarity of kind of like there's no other parallels. And if Acuna's bat down was his kind of like OG flagship rookie card, I really like that Sapphire because it was super short printed, plus you have it in chrome, right? In a parallel of some sort, even though it's not numbered. But yeah, I think you can't go wrong with either. And, I'll follow up in about 6 months and probably choose the white jersey. So
no, it's a good one.
I would love to see if you can put up a poll now on 5 Card Guys, see if it, see what people are saying. Yeah,
no, I'll do that. I have a feeling it's going to be 50-50 or close to it.
Yeah, it's always like that.
But I'll do that. Definitely do that when this episode comes out. All right, it's a good one. So my 1v1 or my pick one, I'm staying with the Acuna theme, right? Because I know he's killing it. The Braves are doing well, like you mentioned. So I'm going with the other card for the high-end chasers that they would want of Acuna's. Of course, I'm talking about the 2017 Bowman Chrome first auto. And I'm going high end, all right? Okay. Gold Refractor, number to 50. BGS 9.5 Gem Mint 10 auto. It last sold for $15,600. So let's say $16K. Okay. $16K.
Okay.
I'm going to put that up with the other guy we're high on, but a little bit more risk, and you'll know why. Fernando Tatis, his 2016 Bowman Chrome first auto, Gold Refractor. So gold for gold, both number to 50, of course. And the last one sold for $16,500. So let's say we're talking about $16K for both. Pop count for the Fernando Tatis Gold at the BGS 9.5 grade, I guess, is 33. I don't know if this is a bigger issue with such a low pop count. And the other pop count for Acuna is 36. So we're looking pretty even.
Pretty even, yeah. I guess because, back in 2016, no one submitted to PSA. Like, very rarely you would submit a first Chrome to PSA. It was 95% BGS, so it kind of makes sense given the high pop count with the number to 50. But this is a crazy one. You're just basically asking me who am I bullish on, Acuna or Tatis. It's like, man, these are my two guys. And the crazy thing is, pre-COVID or during the spike, I was all in on Acuna. I was all in on Tatis too, but things shifted for me. after last year. That really scared me because I personally have, an experience blowing out a knee. I've had multiple surgeries on my knee, and I've never recovered the same way. Every time I had surgery, it was like you can only be a max percentage of your previous, and it goes down and down and down. And that's what kind of worries me about Acuna's game, because he's so high impact. He's so passionate. He's so fast.
Dynamic, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Brett Laurie. Remember Brett Laurie? It's just like he was always 120%. And not saying Acuna is 120% because he sometimes lollygags the crap out of it, which annoys me. But like to me, and then you have Tatis on the other side, who everybody hates on. Like, it's incredible. Like, I just read the comments and I'm just like, okay, don't get upset. This is other people's opinions, but like people just absolutely crap on that guy. It's just mind blowing. It's just he's 22 years old. He's a freaking superstar. But yeah, like in terms of the cards, okay, I'm speaking too much. In terms of the cards, like what card I like better is definitely the Acuna Gold. To me, the Acuna with Acuna's autograph that year, he took 10 minutes on each card, signing, right? And his auto is never looks like that. So I do like the Acuna card more. My collection currently sides with Tatis. Okay. So I'm in a pickle. So
what are you going to choose?
Man, I think I'm going to go Acuna Gold on this one. Just because I have 3 independent Dave Tatis PSA 10s. I have a Bowman Sterling Red out of 5, BGS 10. Like, I have all these Tatis. I have no Acuna. So it's like, if I'm going to go Acuna, I'm going to go, or if I'm going to go like a gold refractor, I'm going to go Acuna. But you can't go wrong. Like, I just love that card. I love his autograph that year. I love that card of his. Tatis, on the other hand, he looks like a 16-year-old minor leaguer. So it's like in a Chicago White Sox uniform, which worst trade ever for Chicago White Sox. But anyways.
James Shields, baby.
James Shields, yeah.
Okay. Well, I was surprised. I feel like I thought you would go Tatis, but knowing your collection, as you mentioned.
Yeah, they kind of like makes me more side with the Acuna, I think, right now.
You know what? It's funny because I think I'm kind of in the same boat with you on this one as well. Like, I have a Topps Chrome auto, and I have the Bowman Chrome auto, the base, but in True Gem grading, and we're seeing how he's mashing in the minors. That's kind of getting me
crazy.
Excited.
He's played his first game.
Then again. Yeah, but then again, like Acuna is killing it. Like, just looking at his stats, he's like 3 homers and 8 stolen bases, batting, just a mere 367 right now. So doing really well with the 1.1 WAR to begin the season. But it's a question of what makes me more nervous. Like Tatis coming back with everything he's been going through. And will he adjust quickly to Major League Baseball at the top level? And also like the Padres. I feel like there's something off with the Padres this year.
Maybe he's the glue.
Or maybe it's just a ship that's on fire and it's just going to go down. and
Don't say that to my Padres. It's way too early.
Way too early. But, we were all expecting them to like just out of the gates.
Yeah,
slow start. Anyway. And then, you have the Braves. Like, the Braves are doing what I expected the Padres to do, just out of the gates.
Yeah.
Just number one team, and Acuna's doing well. So, that being said, I'm less nervous about Acuna. Yeah, like, with his knee, every time you talk about his knee, I get nervous.
Sorry, man.
Like, you really go into it. I'm like, oh, shoot, I don't know. But he played a bit last season, seemed to be all right. Still running the bases, and to your point, maybe a little nervous, but with the bigger bases, I'm hoping it'll be less stressful on his knees, a little less distance to run. I don't know if that's going to help any, but
he might steal 60 bags though this year. That's a crazy thing. There you go,
right?
Yeah.
So even if it's a short-term flip, if he does that, hits 20, 25 homers, that should increase in value, I would think. Sure. So I'm going to go with Acuna as well. All right. That was a long show. Of course, we appreciate all our listeners. Thanks again to Denny, who joined us on the pod earlier for this episode. And can't wait to have the regular gang back together for our new episode next week. We'll talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.